Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, the home of slightly above average FPL content. And if you like what you see today, please do consider sticking around and maybe even ding my little bell for notifications and you can become a mate. It's time for the blank Game Week 28 preview video, and we will be covering some transfer targets for this week and beyond, some weekly topics including blank Game Week 28 tactics, which blanking players to keep/remove, and the new Wolves system that's coming into play. And then finally, we'll be looking at the best captaincy options for Game Week 28. So let's get straight into this watch list. First up, I've got Matt Doherty, and at 6.1 million, he's a pretty expensive option, but I think he may be worth it. As we know, he's an attacking right wing back who was a must-own last season. Doherty has picked up 3 clean sheets and an assist in his last 3 games with scores of 6, 6 and 10. That's an average of over 7 points per game in this run. As you can see here, his fixtures look fantastic, so you would expect this to continue. And I like Doherty just because he gets more goal-scoring opportunities than 99% of other defenders. He has more big chances on goal than any other defenders this entire season, which actually puts him ahead of many midfielders and attackers in this regard. You'd also expect the clean sheets to keep coming, and add to that his assist potential coming through his crosses, where he's going to be crossing into Jimenez and Jota, and we have here a player that is likely to return a couple of 10-pointers minimum in this run of games. If you can afford him, maybe alongside a second expensive defender like Trent Alexander-Arnold. And then finally, if you had a third slot where you can rotate a cheaper defenders, I think that's my preferred defensive strategy, probably for the rest of the season. Next up is Perez, Jose Perez. Now, I mean, I could have just as easily put in Barnes here, but I spoke about Barnes a couple of weeks ago for this very run of fixtures in mind, and I think if you're looking for a mid-price tier midfielder, you've got to go for one of the two. It's a bit of a coin toss which one. Perez is slightly more expensive and has higher ownership than Barnes, which can be a little bit off-putting, but Perez is also a player who likes to score a nice big points. A big point score, but he is obviously a lot more inconsistent. Perez likes a game against a weaker team, such as these fabulous run of fixtures, but if you're bringing him in, you should expect him to maybe get, a 10-pointer plus, then maybe blank for a couple of games, and then maybe get another big hit. So on the weeks where he goes big, you can see your rank fly up, and then the other games, I would say that you probably don't worry about it too much, him blanking, as he is a cheap midfielder at the end of the day. He did get benched last game week, but don't let that put you off. I feel like this was just Leicester's tactics for that particular game, as they had to defend against a very strong Man City attack, and they had no fit defensive midfielders, so the system had to sort of change to accommodate that. If you are a patient manager who can handle a few blanks with the promise of the odd big return, Perez has got to be the one for you. Finally, I've gone for Armstrong. A bit of an odd choice on the face of it, I know, but I know a lot of people are going to be thinking about shifting out Fleck and Adama Traore either this week or maybe next week, or it might be in your semi-immediate plans. Armstrong fits this price point perfectly, and there's not too many players that fit this price point. Another option might be Saka, for example, but Southampton enjoy a continued run of lovely, lovely fixtures, and with injuries in Southampton, Armstrong has nailed his place in the team. Over the past 6 game weeks, he has scored 3 goals. That's a goal every other game, and on each occasion where he's scored, he's gained 9 points. Whilst you might not expect that consistency to continue, he's definitely capable of a goal or 2, and potentially even an assist. And he is, in my opinion, the perfect differential at that particular price point, which, again, I do say there isn't much there, but he's a good option at that price point. And if you can get him in, you can gain a lot of points on your rivals who are going to be sleeping on him, and they'll be sticking to their Flex and the Traore because they might not think that's the priority area, and you can have a bit of a differential on them. So if you don't have a bigger problems in your team, then why not go for the switch? For this blank game week, you might be seeing a few holes in your team. Due to the League Cup final between Man City and Aston Villa, we will be seeing 4 blanking teams: Man City, Arsenal, Sheffield United and Villa. You may be struggling to field a complete 11, especially if you've gone all out on the Sheffield United defence. Or maybe you own a few City players, a KDB, a Mahrez, maybe you have Grealish, maybe you have Aubameyang, and you're going to be tempted to use your free hit. Well, let's be honest, if you're in that situation, you're going to be tempted. I've had multiple people ask me on Twitter through text whether they should go for their free hit. I've seen the FPL Twitter account literally tweet out, hey, it might be a great idea to use your free hit this weekend. Listen, I'm telling you, don't use it. Even in the most extreme scenario where you can only field maybe 9 or 10 players, even after using your free transfer and taking a -4 hit with your transfers, I know it's pretty extreme, but even if you're in that situation, this problem will be absolutely nothing compared to what you will be facing in Game Week 31. So in Game Week 31, we could be seeing up to 14 or 16 teams blanking, which is obviously so much more extreme than a measly 4. Save your free hit for that, or if you can get away with not even using it then you should save it for a double game week. Now is absolutely not the time to use it, not in a million years. Another tactic this week is to wait very late before making your transfers and picking your team. We do have early team menus for Leicester versus Norwich, where they play on Friday, so don't forget they play on Friday. So be patient, wait for team news before committing. Make sure you have options on who you want to bring in, just in case your first choice isn't going to be playing in that game. And just choose carefully which blanking players you want to keep or remove. And hopefully I can help you with that right now. So I've got in front of us here a list of some of the most popular players that will blank this week. They're not going to play. They're either getting on the bench, they're either getting rid completely. So let's go through them. So we'll start with Aubameyang. Great form, great fixtures after the blank. So definitely keep him if you can afford to. Pepe, I'm on the fence with. If you've only just brought him in, and you're probably tempted to keep him in unless you fancy taking a punt on Bruno or Richarlison. So I'm a bit unsure on this one. So you can make up your own mind on that one. Grealish is a remove from me. Bad fixtures coming up. Aston Villa looking woeful. I just feel like Grealish, it's time to get rid. He served his purpose, so let's go. KDB is a keep. He's just too good, isn't he? And I can't see why you remove him. He's come on, he's one of the best players in the league, if not the. So even though City's fixtures aren't great, still worth keeping. And, you know, we're going to get an extra week out of him from an extra double game week. And he's also on penalties too. Aguero has to go. He's done his duties. You know, the fixtures aren't great, as I said. And he's also a big rotation risk. So I think he's got to go. Mahrez again, a rotation risk. So I'll be very tempted to get rid of him. Bruno, Richarlison, or maybe a Leicester midfielder can come in to replace him. Lundstram is no longer first choice in midfield and not reliable to put in your first 11 anymore. So he's got to go. Henderson, if you have a backup keeper, then you know you could keep him. I probably wouldn't personally. If you don't have a backup keeper, I'd swap him out for Pope or maybe McCarthy. So he can go. Fleck has to go. I think if you need to free up a slot for a playing player anyway, he's no longer in form. Fixtures look average. Bring in Armstrong. Stevens, it's really up to you. If he's your only Sheffield defender, then keep him and just play someone else in his stead. Egan or any other defender from Sheffield, again, is a keep if he's the only one you have in that position. When Sheffield do get their bonus double game week with one fixture against Villa, which is what's going to be guaranteed here, you're going to be looking at these nailed on defensive players in Sheffield. So he'll be whoever it will be a really useful player to have in that game if you've got one Sheffield United defender. Whew, okay, that was easy, wasn't it? So I wanted to look at the new Wolves system and how it might affect how desirable their players are, basically. As we know, Wolves have a fantastic run of fixtures until the end of the season now, so it's definitely worth looking at how they're setting up so we know which players we should target. So Wolves in the last few Premier League games and European games have switched from their usual 3-4-3 system to a 3-5-2 system. This means that there are no more wingers, with Doherty and Johnny Otto now occupying these wide attacking spaces. It means that Jota has moved from the left wing position to be more of a second striker, or maybe even a central striker if you like. And it means that Adama Traore is left on the bench to come on as an impact player later on. In recent weeks, which has meant just 1 pointers, which is fairly unfortunate. I'd say that the image on the right is probably near enough their preferred setup and what you can expect to see if everyone's fit and well rested. So what this means is now Jota is now far more attractive and far more likely to score points, as demonstrated last game. And you can see he even got a hat-trick in his Europe game just a week ago today, actually. Doherty and Johnny are now providing the attacking width of the team, more so Doherty, so he's suddenly really attractive. Traore has been dropped for a couple of games, so you might see him having lost his place permanently. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think anyone's really sure, but what I can tell you is that he's no longer reliable at this given moment. And it also makes the defence a little bit more interesting, just because with the extra defensive midfielder in the team, the whole team becomes a little bit more defensive. So the defensive assets are a bit more attractive, as they're going to concede fewer goals and get more clean sheets, as demonstrated by their recent run of clean sheets. So there you have it, a quick rundown on how to approach Wolves players from now. But enough of Wolves, it's time for the most important decision of your week, and that is the captaincy selection. So, in my mind, there is only one fixture worth targeting this week, and it features Mo Salah. He is the highest scoring player in FPL, and he's taking on a Watford team that are not looking too good. Watford had a good run after their new manager bounced, but now the honeymoon period is over. They look to be back to their old ways. This has meant that some FPL managers are incorrectly assuming that will be a tough game for Liverpool, and I don't believe that to be the case. They were absolutely tragic against Man United last weekend, and against Everton a couple of weeks before that, they were just as bad. And Watford are conceding so many shots in the box that they're beginning to rival the records of Aston Villa and West Ham, who are the teams who typically we would be targeting when we're thinking about our captaincy choice. Mo Salah, on the other hand, is a player who tops the charts for shots in the box. So add those two factors together, it means that Salah is going to get plenty of chances to score. It's just a case of whether he takes them, and often he does. We all know about his assist potential too, and the chances he creates for his teammates, and of course the prospect of penalties tops it all off. An advantage we have this weekend is that there will be a bit more variety with captains compared to last week, where it seemed like 90% of the active managers were just captaining Salah. There will be a few fools taking wild punts this week, just as Watford are not seen as an easy game anymore, even though they kind of are. So with that in mind, it's really good. It's a really good time to go for an obvious captaincy choice, and I think that obvious choice is Salah. So since we are short of options this week, my second shout is Mane. If you don't have Salah but have Mane, then pick Mane, and vice versa. If you don't have Mane and have Salah, pick Salah. These are both two players that have the highest probability of returning this week, I reckon. So, I mean, if you have both, you might have yourself a little bit of a problem with picking one. Mane is the more aggressive pick, just due to his far lower ownership. Mane is typically the player who scores higher away from home, and then Salah scores more at home. And this is an away game, of course. Also, Mane has now outscored Salah the past 2 games, where he has returned fresh from injury. Could it be that Mane is actually the better pick for this game week? Stats suggest no, Mane has fewer chances and less of the ball than Salah, although he does seem to finish them off more consistently. And it seems like there is a pattern of Salah and Mane taking it in turns to haul, and it is very much Salah's turn to haul. But that may just be suspicious, superstitious, mumbo jumbo, and I think you can afford to go with your gut on this one if you do own both. And if you only own one, then I think your captain picks himself this week. Finally, Danny Ings, and this is a risky one, and there aren't really any other good options, to be honest. A lot of people are saying Vardy against Norwich, but not only has Vardy been playing poorly and not getting chances to score, but Norwich have strengthened up a little bit at the back and are not the typical whipping boys that we used to think of them as. So I would expect that game to be maybe 2-0 to Leicester, so even if Vardy can grab one of the goals, he's unlikely to haul. Ings, on the other hand, despite not returning that many goals recently, is still getting plenty of decent chances, and you'd expect him to regress back to that regular scoring form at some point. West Ham I see as a much weaker team to play against, and I'd expect Ings and Longs to go to town on them. West Ham would also go into this game with hopefully an attacking spirit. They are sort of on the cusp of getting relegated, so you'd expect them to really go for it. As they need to start picking up some points, especially at home. So this might open them up to a few conceding chances. So I'm backing Ings as the only realistic outside punt to the highly recommended Liverpool guys. So that's all I have to say in the run-up to Game Week 28. If you did enjoy this video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Thank you so much for all the support recently. I'm well on my way to 100 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. A massive good luck to everyone this week. I hope you can all smash it, and let me know what transfer and captaincy plans are on your mind this game week. And I hope to see you on the next one. See you later, mates.